Hi everyone, my name is Nisi Webb, and I wanted to take just a moment to tell you about some of the community outreach events we have here at the Johnson Center. I know that many of you are listening in from afar and may not be available for local events or programs, and that is one of the main reasons why we provide this webinar series. Parents and professionals alike can register for any of our free webinars and can have access to some very informative topics and experienced presenters. We host multiple webinars per month, so please mark your schedule for our next presentation titled Healthy Living for the New Year. Set Your 2014 Resolutions. And this webinar will be scheduled on Tuesday, December 3rd. If you're not on our email list, which enables you to get these announcements directly, I encourage you to visit our website and click on the Join Our Email List link. To get instant news and events from the Johnson Center, you may also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, as we often announce grant and scholarship opportunities, research opportunities, and last-minute events and presentations there. You can find links for these on our website as well. I also encourage all who are listening to check out the blog on our website, as we offer information on current nutrition, medical, behavioral, education, and research topics. Be sure to follow our colleagues at the Autism Research Institute, as they have launched their own webinar initiative, and they share some great resources on their website and social media pages. Today's webinar is being presented by David Geslak. David has become widely recognized in the autism community for his affection to the community, dynamic presentations, and for the pioneering of structured visual exercise programs. He has trained professionals throughout the world on the exercise connection protocol, authored 3 books, hosts a TV show called Coach Dave on the Autism channel, and provides jobs for individuals with autism, his champions. The autism and special needs community has enthusiastically embraced Dave's message and is especially encouraged by his results. I also wanted to give a little shout out to David, as it is his birthday today, and he has graciously accepted our invitation to be a guest presenter on our webinar series on his special day. Now, before we begin the presentation, please note that questions can be typed into your control panel throughout, and time permitting, they will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Also, for those of you that have requested copies, we cannot send out the presentation slides. However, we do post recordings of all of our free webinars on the Johnson Center YouTube channel. Please search for us on YouTube and subscribe to get full access to all of our recorded webinars. I also wanted to mention that we do offer certificates of attendance for our free webinars. And if you will look on your control panel in the chat panel, I have included the link to click to receive a certificate of attendance if you're interested. You will also receive this link in an email once the webinar has ended. Now, if you'll please help in welcoming our presenter, David.
Hi, how is everyone today? I appreciate everyone spending their Tuesday afternoon with me. We are going to go through a good amount of information, whether your child or students that you may be working with are of a young age or adults. You're going to see a lot of information that has worked in many of my classrooms and in private sessions for not only myself but my staff. And a lot of these exercises and routines also work for not just autism, but children with all special needs. And you'll see throughout this how many of the exercises and routines could be used with any neurotypical child, or even the siblings to kind of engage with their brother or sister. So I hope you guys enjoy, answer or send in any questions, and I will try to get to as many as I can at the end. So today's presentation is Exercise in Autism, Great Strategies to Create a Program that will make a difference. this is an agreement now. You guys, I want you guys to all understand when I usually do an exercise presentation, we are up and moving and exercising. And I think this is only my second webinar. So it's very difficult for me to sit in a chair and try to educate you about exercise. So, but here is our agreement. I agreed to do exercises in this presentation with David and my peers. I agree to pay attention and try not to fall asleep. Now we're sitting in chairs, so you may have to stand up every so often. I agree to ask questions at any time. David doesn't mind questions. Again, send your questions now to in the chat room, and they'll be taken care of. And today's session will be fun, and I will be able to use these exercises with my child or children I work with. So essentially, that's a social story. And especially if you're a parent or working with adults, a parent of an adult, um, some of these things that you're going to see is maybe elementary or very basic that maybe you did with your child 10 or 15 years ago. And you're going to have to reintroduce things like social stories and what you're going to see with visuals and things like that, because it's very primary to, or this is something that they've been used to. And when you're trying to engage them in something new, you want to use those same strategies that they may have learned years and years ago. So I encourage you to look at maybe old notes and things that you may have done with other therapists when you're starting to engage your children in exercise. All right, here we go. Let's do our first exercise. Anyone tell me what that is yet? We're getting there. Great. Touch your toes. Now, why I show this and in that sequencing is because typically when I'm presenting, we have the music blasting, the lights are flashing, and I'm trying to talk and explain what to do, and then I slowly bring up these visuals. And that is to, again, emphasize the use of visual supports in an exercise setting. Your children, because of the sensory, their high sensory systems and things that we may never experience, truly what they're experiencing in regards to light, touch, sound, even smell. I know and have seen so much progress with a lot of my children and adults simply by using visual supports. So that is primary component of the exercise connection and this program. Two exercises I want to start with. One is, again, nonverbal communication, and this is specifically throwing a ball. Now, what I typically see with parents, even professionals, when we're trying to teach our child, for example, to catch a ball, we're often really far apart, and a lot of the kids, they don't have the coordination yet. They can do these things, and from a nonverbal standpoint, let's picture in your mind mom or dad, professional, throwing a ball at a child. That nonverbal communication can be very threatening, like they may be hit. Unfortunately, that does happen in our community. But even if it doesn't, it's a very threatening nonverbal communication and action. So when you're starting with, for example, maybe trying to teach your son or daughter to catch a ball, I would suggest you starting close, placing the ball back and forth, meaning like you guys are right on top of each other, which is also building the relationship. And then you as the instructor or the parent slowly step back. And as your child or student gains confidence, then you make those adjustments to step back and increase their ability and increase their confidence to, for example, catch a ball. And some things that you'll hear me say throughout here is in this picture, you see that they're doing it with their right hand, but you should also do it with your child with your left hand, their non-dominant or their non-dominant side. No matter what, always do both sides of the body because that's ultimately engaging both sides of the brain. Crossover march. Here's another exercise that I like. Why we do this is you may have seen something similar to this to brain gym. However, we're going to take it one step further. But in regards to this exercise, they're crossing midline, they're lifting their leg. That means they're getting knee flexion, hip extension, more mobility within their lower extremity, which is the ankles, knees, and hips. And again, by crossing midline, they're again working both sides of the brain. Okay. Now, look at this one. What are we working here? If you guys want to get up and do that, do it. Give it a shot. You're doing a crossover march, crossing right elbow to left knee, and then the opposite, left elbow to right knee. And what now, by doing it with the elbow, you're starting to engage the abdominals. And the abdominals are a common weakness in all children with special needs, specifically autism, but typically all individuals. Okay. And one thing about the crossover march that is hard to demonstrate now is that you don't always want to do it in that static position, meaning standing straight up. Your kids may learn it better by actually moving and walking around and trying to get that, or you assisting them that way. It's very hard for me to explain like this, but I hope that makes sense. Have your child move. I'll go through this quickly. Here's a little bit about my background. If there's any Hawkeyes out there, hello. And I've been in Exercise Connection, founded this in 2009, right at the same time when I was a fitness coordinator at a school called Giant Steps, which is the oldest school in Illinois for children diagnosed with autism. I've trained staff across the world. If you can see here, this is in Egypt, Dubai. These are partnerships I've formed in Illinois. And most recently, this is our current partnership. This program is being tested at a school district called North Suburban Special Education District here in Northern Illinois. Today is about our children with autism and special needs, effective movements and exercises, and of course, families and professionals, all working together to achieve a common goal of a structured, visual, and more physically active environment for our individuals or students with special needs to excel. Pay attention to this slide, people. This is the fundamentals of the Exercise Connection program. First fundamental is getting an understanding education, which you guys are getting today. Second, we're going to cover is structure. Three is supports, meaning visual supports, which we've already started. Motivation and patience. Obviously, you guys are parents or professionals, you're committed, you're at a webinar, which is great. Unfortunately, as we see, I believe, and I can say this, I used to be a paraprofessional. I think a lot of paras, they deal with the most, they get paid the least. However, I think their patience are tested at times, and I've been in their shoes. So for any paras maybe listening out there, or any special educators that are seeing their paras either drained or just kind of mentally exhausted, you're going to see in a second why that's so important to take notice. And potentially even maybe it's time for some of them to find a new position either within a school or to honestly to be out of special ed. And I'll explain that more in a second. Fourth, is that four? That's five. Listen to parents and guardians. I've walked out of IEPs, and I've heard therapists and stuff say, "Well, they're not doing this at home," and those professionals that are doing that are in no position to judge you as a parent or guardian of your children. I'm in a lot of homes. I see firsthand what some of the moms and dads are dealing with, whether they're a mom and dad or a single family. And it's you guys are the miracle workers, and professionals can't expect you to do everything. We have to try to do as much as we can for your child in the time that we're with them, and give you as much information and positive feedback. But your feedback is so valuable to us as instructors. So for professionals out there, listen to parents. They have some of the best ideas. And teamwork. It's not, you may have to, as a parent, you may have to, or as a professional, if something's not going on in adaptive PE, special ed probably wants that to go better as well. The special ed teacher, they may create visual supports for you. They may help you with structures and things like that. So we have to work as a team, because as we all know, when you met one child with autism, you met one child with autism. And I wish there was a cookie cutter approach to helping all the kids and all the families, and especially with exercise, but there isn't. Okay, movement first, sport second. You're going to see much of what we're doing here today is again about movement first, sport second. We got to get these kids to move. They must move. We know it engages their brain. We know it has so many benefits, which you're going to hear about, but sport is not necessarily the answer. However, it can be for your kids. So I don't want you to, if your child, especially if they're nonverbal, they may not want to play basketball or play soccer. And here's the best example I can give you. I was working with a girl at the school. She was 16 years old, lower functioning. She was still in a diaper. Always had issues when she came into one of my lessons, which was soccer. However, I thought, oh, soccer, girls' sport, this is going to be great for her. However, she would always have behavioral issues. So a couple weeks later, I move on to a different lesson, and we're in football. And she was absolutely fine. And her mom came to get her, and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, Erica's been doing great with this football unit. You know, she's had other units where we're doing our exercises and um, going over the 5 components, which you guys will hear about in a second. But she's been doing great in football, but soccer, she's always had an issue. She just had some behavioral issues. And she goes, oh, well, that makes sense. And I said, well, why? I don't understand. And mom said that she always watched football with her father on Sunday. So it makes absolute sense to me now. And again, going back to listening to parents and guardians, sometimes you guys have the best ideas. So don't hold that back from either me as an exercise professional, sometimes the other therapist your child may be working with. Second, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Masking tape, foam rollers, visual supports. As you see here on the right, there's some visual supports here, which are your standard board maker, which is a good starting point at times. However, when we want to get to more advanced work, which your kids can do, those aren't really available through Boardmaker, and I do have those available, and I'll show you. Think of the body as the machine. Okay, we started off that first exercise with body part identification, where touch your toes. And the reason I started with that is because many of our kids don't understand the parts of the body and what they can do. So this is very important. If your child doesn't understand their feet from their hands, how are you going to help, maybe even teach them a sport, or teach them to touch their toes or their knees? You have to start educating your children on their body parts. I see it again and again in adults who not only sometimes don't understand their body part, but they still don't understand their right from their left. And they can understand this. They are capable of doing this. So the body lends itself to so many things beyond even exercise, but the development of the brain. And you don't need to spend money on that to teach those things, okay? Here's that study I was mentioning about, going back to paraprofessionals and people working in this community. The facilitator's parent or other having a visible effect of acceptance, enjoyment, expressiveness, and warmth are significantly related to increases in the child's language, social competence, joint attention, and self-regulation. And this is specifically for children with autism. Amazing study. I used to keep it at the end of the slides. It's at the first. I mean, absolutely amazing. And if you need it for an IEP, let me know. I can send it to the Johnson Center and we'll send it to you. All right, I want to start with this video really quick. I want you to see that this boy, he was 3.5 when I started. In this video, I believe he was about 4.5. He's now 6. He was your stereotypical classic autism with behavioral issues. When I met him, he was bouncing off the walls. His parents were doing a biomedical approach, so he had a lot of gut issues. I've changed his diaper a couple times. And to be honest, he was the youngest I ever worked with. I knew it was possible. Um, but he challenged me, and he continues now that he's verbal, and it's amazing. But the other thing that I wanted to let you know is, if you see on that top, that's another study, and it says a relationship exists between motor skill development, language development, social interactions, and academic performance. So we have to embed, and we can embed, motor skills, exercise, and movement within language, and do all of that. And you're going to see a little bit of how we do that. But it's so important for them, not just from their body, not just from their brain, but now expanding in socially, and language development is huge, and academically. But here is Mr. Rowan. Getting them all set up. Rowan, are we going to do all those exercises today? What number is that? Is that our magic number? Yes. What number? 25. Eight. Six. Seven. Open up. 8. 9. 10. Up. 6. Good job. 4.
Nice job.
A couple things I want to point out with that video. Visuals, when you saw him pick those visuals, those were all white, and you're going to see how I've changed the system to be more engaging for the kids, but that didn't happen right away. I promise you, that took a long time. You saw him use dumbbells. I am absolutely a huge component of dumbbells for our kids, not only for the younger kids. Obviously, if they're a lower weight, you feel comfortable teaching it, but because of the sensory feedback it can give, it can be more functional than, sometimes some of the heavy work that our teenagers are given. Um, excuse me. And it can also transfer on over nicely into obviously the teenagers or adulthood. So it's more functional and more real. The blanket, or the mat, he didn't have an exercise mat. His parents didn't, so he had the soft blanket, and that's what we started with. I said, "This is your exercise mat." So don't think you have to go spend a ton getting a specific exercise mat. However, some of those could be more sensory friendly, and they could work. And then you heard him count. That became more independent as he picked the number. There was opportunities for WH questions a lot throughout all those sessions. Okay, our children and exercise. These are the benefits of exercise. If you can read those, go ahead. Ultimately, this is for everyone. And what I'm trying to say here is that exercise is medicine. It can help all of us, and we need to have our kids do it. Lowers blood pressure, reduces level of stress, reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. We all know this. Now, these results are specific to autism. Can reduce stress and improve sleep. Increases in attention span and on-task behavior. Remember that one. Effective in controlling many types of inappropriate behaviors. Reduces aggressive behaviors exhibited by ADHD patients. The reason I show this is because a lot of our kids are duly diagnosed. And ultimately increases brain complexity by creating new neural pathways. You are simply building the brain by exercising, by starting to move the body. Don't put them in front of a video game. Most of these video games, yes, they can, and their studies can come out to make it sway in their way within fine motor coordination and all of this. I can expand and expand. We need to have them moving. I always fear with video games, because this is a common question, that they start, and let's say they do one of these big exercise games, but then you have all the other games there where they can just sit there and stare at the screen and sit down, thus having their posture be worse, and then ultimately not moving. So I'm not a huge component of video games. Obviously, I'm sure you can tell that. But maybe if it's in a reward system, but again, they need to have their bodies moving. Here's something, unfortunately, I apologize, we usually go through this. I don't really have any videos on this, but this is called letter jumping. And at the bottom there, you're going to read another study that says physical movement interventions would have the greatest effect when utilized during academic or therapy sessions versus directly before. And what I want you to imagine is you see on those characters, there's 5 dots on the ground, or you can make those with masking tape. And you actually have the child jump the letters, and some of the letters are there. And you know what? I really apologize that I don't have anything here because this is really hard for me to describe. But ultimately, what this leads to is increased. You can start by saying, what letter are we going to do? And let's say we choose the letter C. Then they can go ahead and say it. Then you show them the diagram of how we jump through the letter C. You could then take it one step further and go to a fine motor, and then after the diagram is shown and they jump through it, have them go ahead and write the letter C. Again, I would encourage both writing with your dominant and non-dominant hand. And then you can ask them, what letter did you write? Going back to C, or excuse me, going back to speech. So it's letter jumping. It is in one of my books that you can learn more about that way as well. Okay, the 5 components of physical fitness for children with autism spectrum disorders. This is how, I'm going to go through this quick, but this is how what we are all used to in the way that most of us have grown up and being educated about the body, and to this day, still our kids are. Body composition, flexibility, muscular strength, muscular endurance, cardiovascular fitness. These 2 are not primary components, but skill-related components. But how often do we hear about balance and coordination in our kids? So since these needs weren't meeting, not only the needs aren't being addressed, but also the education. So I've created the 5 components, which are body image, motor coordination, posture, muscular fitness, and cardiovascular fitness for our kids. There is a bonus component within the visual exercise system, but I call it abdominal strength because it's traditionally weak. But those 5 components are in blue, and which is primary to developing programs and routines for our children. Here you can see this is one of my classes when I first started at Giant Steps. I didn't have a lot of money. So right here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's a little masking tape that I used, and I would always bring a child into the middle whether they were verbal or nonverbal, and we had visual supports in place to do so. And excuse me, let me go back. And we would, what And what this did, this circle warm up, provided an opportunity for those kids, either the child in the middle and their peers, to see them as a leader and give them independence. And it provided a ton of social interactions. When we talk about our programs, we need to have structure, our exercise program. Structure, structure, structure. Very, very important. Can help reduce maladaptive behaviors, provide the opportunity for change, and provides the child with expectations, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Often we forget this when it comes to exercise. Okay, we need to have that. Whether it's in a group setting or an individual setting, if you're working with your child or student. Sorry about that. Here's an example. This is an example of our NSSED class. We take about 5 minutes, sometimes less, to put on our shirt. We go to the group warm-up, which you kind of saw. We do a station model, and then we do a group cool down. And that's all done in 30 minutes. Not only the structure, but you have to have visual strategies in an exercise setting, whether it's in a group class or an individual class. Visuals are not only for the classroom. So take them out of the classroom, adapt them to whether it's at home or in a school-related program. And for parents, sometimes I've encompassed questions in parents where they didn't want to give their kids or their adults visual supports because they thought they didn't need them. But again, exercise may be brand new for your child. And a lot of kids don't want to exercise, whether they have autism or special needs or are neurotypical. So we got to try to make it comfortable for them and start to engage them. And that's why I said sometimes you're going to have to use pictures and visual schedules again, even if your kids aren't independent, because it could put them to a more of a safe, comfortable place that you're used to and transition them better. So again, adults still need visual strategies, and especially in an exercise setting. Here's a station example. Just maybe one way that I would create a station, a group of stations for a child to move in. So they would do, let's say, Superman's up here, number 1 for a certain amount. Then they would go to maybe a ladder exercise. You saw Rowan do that, and I made that with masking tape. You can see some of those ladder exercises not only in my books, but in my DVDs as well. And you actually see individuals with autism doing the exercise. Then you can go to number 3, which is a collapse on the foam roller, which is what you saw Rowan do as well. And again, he was 4.5 at that time, but I have 30-year-olds going on this foam roller, awesome stuff. And then you can do something, for example, a downward dog, okay? When we go into exercise, if there's professionals out there with group leadership and independence, I think what you kind of saw in that one picture with the girl in the middle, she was leading the group. They take turns throughout the group protocol. They pick exercises. They make up exercises. Have it fun for them. I don't use the word fun a lot in my presentations because I think that's what I leave that up to your special rec programs and some of the local YMCAs who tell parents, oh, this is going to be fun. Well, sometimes it absolutely can be fun, but starting a program is a challenge, and you need to have the structure. And I'm not going to tell parents this is going to be an immediate fun thing for your kids. It definitely can be, and when you add that social piece into it, it's pretty amazing. Some of the stories I witnessed or seeing the individuals connect with each other, it's pretty cool. I wish I had more videos like that to show you guys. I want to play a quick little video. I'm going to try this for a second. Hold on 1 second. And this is a video of Derek, one of my champions. and him leading one of our group classes. And this is often done. This is more of what you saw in that first picture with the one girl, but here we go. I hope you all can see that. I think I did that right.
Single leg balance.
Perfect. Go on to the center, show everybody.
I guess you just go like that for maybe 18 seconds.
All right, can you show everybody?
There we go. We did one.
Now, the reason obviously I showed that is if you see there at the end how everyone's clapping, we encourage that. So much self-esteem building, and he had that independence. He took the visual. He is trying to be more engaging, and with all the kids there. Excuse me, and those are adults. But really awesome stuff. If you're starting, this is one of my programs years ago, and you see here with the boy choosing, these are before I was still creating my visual system. I would put these up, and I would have them choose the program or choose the exercises. It gives them ownership, and I think often our kids are told what to do, and I think that's why we see sometimes a lot of maladaptive behaviors. So I try to give them every opportunity to gain that independence, give them ownership of the program. However, this allows you to even set the amount, and then make sure if you're setting an amount or a goal, make sure it's realistic. Parents, when you're starting, professionals, don't think that they're all going to do 3 sets of 10. That's not even a real research study number. That's what everyone thinks about exercise. Your kids will see benefit from one set of maybe 5 exercises or 5 repetitions of an exercise. Slowly build on that. Remember, we want to give them confidence in this program. We want them to continue this through the lifetime. So start slow. And same thing goes for you and parents. You as parents. I know that the next webinar is healthy living in the new year. So this is the same approach, okay? Talking about giving independence and making it their own. This is Rachel, and I'm going to show you a video at the end where this is the foam roller. She had a white one. Her mom bought her a white one, and then she wrote all the things on it, and we still use that today. Helps calm the nervous system, develops core abs. You saw that with Rowan. It's like $30. I'm telling you guys, not only for the kids, but for mom or dad. I know sometimes you guys are under a lot of stress and have a lot of tension. I'm telling you, it's well worth it. Okay, but look how she made it her own. It was awesome. She wrote Drops of Jupiter, Anna Manga, or Drops of Jupiter is her favorite song. Anime and manga forever. And one last thing I want to show you about picking exercises is let's start here with the dumbbell press. We'll move to jumping on a trampoline and then hip extension. This is an example of something I would do with a child is have them start doing something on the ground, then stand back up, and then go back onto the ground. For some of your kids who may be a little bit overweight, okay, that up and down movement, challenge them a ton more, and it can help to burn more calories. So could you absolutely design an exercise program where they're just laying on the ground and doing it? Sure you can, and you may have to. But notice those things when you're thinking about designing a program or trying to do things. Have them go from something up, maybe then down, maybe then they have to turn their body over on their hands and knees and then go back up. So do those types of things. That'll add a lot. It will add a little bit more caloric burn, and I'm telling you, good stuff there, okay? I'm just going to kind of go through the visual exercise system so you guys know what's available. We have right up at the top is the 5 components. Then we have a yoga and a sport, and we actually have one that's new. It's not up on the website yet, but it's specifically for fitness rooms. We use color. Hold on, I'm skipping ahead. But here's the research on visual supports. Okay, support play skill development, increase on-task behavior, helps with social initiation, and increases or reduces, excuse me, self-injurious behavior. We use color for a number of reasons. One, if you remember in Rowan's video, they were all white, and I would get confused on what I was looking for. But it helps to keep myself and other professionals better organized. It keeps the children engaged. Color as a therapeutic response. It affects our body's functions, influences our mind and emotion. So again, it helps to engage them, and then it keeps our champions on task. Every visual system that you see is built by an individual with autism, specifically Derek and Noel. Here's some of the sport things that we have. You'll see here we have things that are broken down. I use the infamous board maker because when I was at Giant Steps trying to create visuals for a soccer lesson plan, all there was half of a leg and a ball. And what does that really tell us or tell our children of what we're asking them, for example, in soccer? It doesn't. So that's when I was on my mission to start developing better supports to help not only myself at the time, but other professionals and parents. Yoga, we have yoga, and this is the fitness room one that we have now as well. So a couple exercises I want to show you as best as I can. This is called the Supermans. And this is a very complex exercise, but there's a reason why I want to show you this, and I love this exercise. Okay, first, if you remember in the beginning of the presentation, we did, I showed you the crossover march. Again, crossing midline, standing up in a static position, trying to cross midline. Typically how we teach it for our kids. However, they are often, some of them can't do it. However, I've seen kids that, and adults that can't do, let's say, that, but if we put them on the ground and try to do the Superman, they're able to do that. Now, if you can follow this visual, they're touching the opposite hand to opposite leg, then they're extending out and repeating, and then you would do the opposite side. And why this is so key is for a child who's overweight, this is an abdominal exercise, activating that core area. This is helping with midline. There is so much going on here that is incredible. And that, again, if your child can't cross midline, that maybe as an OT or the OT's doing or the physical therapist doing, and they keep doing the same old thing, you got to think outside the box and try different things. Okay, and I'm going to show you now why breaking it down is so important. And this exercise specifically and the visuals within it are in the Autism Fitness Handbook, number 2. Excuse me. Okay, so we're going to start here at the top left. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but you may have to break these things down. It's not going to start exactly like what you just saw on that first slide. So you could start by simply having your child kick the leg, their leg to your hand. Sorry about that. And again, this provides now another opportunity for you as a parent or professional to teach your child the difference between their right and their left, okay, within their legs and their hands or their feet, okay? Now, I show you on the top 2, there's one where he's kicking the hand or the child is kicking the foot out. Doesn't matter which one, okay? With our children, I don't want, whether you hear it from me, see it in a presentation, watch it on a video, or read it in one of my books. The goal is to get our children moving. That is half the battle. If you as a parent or a professional start to stop the child in the middle of the exercise and say no, or that's wrong, you can't do it. A lot of our children, and I've been in the schools, they hear that enough, okay? They don't need to be told again that they're doing something wrong. And as professionals, if there's professionals out there listening, Parents want positive feedback. You don't always need to start off with, your child didn't do this today, because I promise you, you can look at something that their child did that day that was positive. Okay. Again, my point is if they start doing something that doesn't look right on the visual or the video, don't worry about it. As long as they're in a relatively safe position, it's going to be fine. But we want to get them moving, and we want them to encourage them to keep moving. Okay. Bottom left, you see here with the hand placement. So again, at the top, you may start with leg kicking. Then you start just with moving the hand. Then you can, I'm sorry, I don't have this visual in here, but you can then just move the hand cross midline to touch the knee without moving the leg and extending, and then slowly add both of it in. You may have to do a lot of physical prompting, but honestly, you'd be surprised at some of what your kids can pick up. Number one, through that visual, but also number two, as parents or professionals, you got to model it. Okay? Don't expect your child or students to do some of these exercises that you're asking if you can't even do them or just don't want to do them. Okay? Got to model it. And then this is one, if they want more sensory feedback, you could even put a small dumbbell in their hand, or something like that. Maybe something softer, that has a little bit of weight to it. But anyways, they may need sensory feedback. So that's that bottom right. Okay, so hopefully you followed that. Yoga, how I started was completely by accident, but I just want to show you how I kind of do this. And this is kind of different than your typical yoga model. But what I did is I started with the kids on the ground. When I started at Giant Steps, there were 12 kids in a class, and they never were in that. There were never that many kids in one class combined. One day they came in and they were literally bouncing off the walls, feeding off of each other, hitting each other, because I mean it was crazy. So I turned off the lights. I told every paraprofessional, and I told all the kids, I said, lay down and just breathe and relax. And after 10 minutes, they were calm. It was amazing. Then we were in that circle warm up, and I slowly got them up, and we started to do our exercises. Everything wasn't perfect, I promise you, but it was 1,000 times better. So if you're starting maybe in a group class and your kids are on sensory overload, or one kid's come from speech, the other kids come from OT, or they were just at lunch and a kid threw something at them, who knows? You may want to start with something calm and then slowly work them onto their feet. I'm telling you, it works. Here is the posture exercises. This is actually supposed to be in pink because that's how it would come in the visual system. But it also is in my books. But these are some of the exercises that you can do to help calm the nervous system, improve posture, reduce some tension. Really good stuff. Agility ladder, you saw that with Rowan. Here's a few examples that are in the book, but then are also in the DVD. And the DVD has more. It shows you how to make it, and it also shows you two individuals with autism kind of running through the exercises. So, and the ladder, again, it provides you another opportunity to challenge both the right and the left side. It is, again, could be made with masking tape. Could be done inside and outside, which is also very important. You know, your kids may need some vitamin D, so bring them outside, or your students. And it helps them not only improve, you know, the brain, but it also works on the lower extremity, the strength of the ankles, knees, and hips. Okay, very good stuff. As role as a parent, or brother or sister, I kind of mentioned this already, but you can talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? Meaning you can't expect some of the kids, and not just as a parent, but it should say professional up there, and I apologize, but we can't expect the kids or the students just to do what we're asking of them if we're not kind of leading them and showing them. And again, going back to that was if you don't feel comfortable teaching an exercise, or if you read something in one of my books, or learned something today, then don't do it. Because obviously, one, we got to keep them safe. And we don't want put them in harm's way, put you in harm's way. For example, I've had a dumbbell dropped on my foot, but don't do it then. But do things that you're comfortable with. If you have questions, you can always ask me, and make sure you can lead them. Again, going with video games, I said this earlier, I think limiting video games is good. I used to say no video games, but I think limiting them. And then, or maybe use it as a reward system to help get your child engaged in exercise. Nutrition, I am not a registered dietitian or anything like that. However, nutrition plays a huge role. And I know many parents do understand that. So that has to be a piece especially if you're looking at something like reducing the weight of your child. And just remember, your children are always watching. And the reason I say this is because I first started designing that DVD for actually dads. And I wanted them, because that's how I first got started, was a dad brought me his son and I didn't know he was on the spectrum. And then he slowly told me, and long story short. But I want you guys to have exercises, have routines that maybe you are able to do in your basement, for example, and you can go ahead and do it. And maybe your child doesn't watch you or come down the first time, but one day, maybe months later, weeks later, he or she may. And I want you to have the tools to be able to not only teach them exercise, but engage with them in another way. And through this healthy, powerful exercise and routine, and not only for mom or dad, but even brother and sister. A lot of the topics or calls I get are from parents who are children who are over 16, and they're not moving now because OT and PT are gone. So you saw Rowan in that video, and he started at 3.5. He knows exercise. He knows I'm Coach Dave when I come in to the home, or Coach Laura or Coach Ashley, that are my coaches, and we go into the home. We are coaches. We are not therapists. And these kids understand the difference between, or they know what therapy is, and their peers aren't always experiencing that. So get them engaged. Remember, all learning is not done by books, as you saw from some of those research studies, and the letter jumping, even the ladder, which I don't have time to go over, but there's a way that you can help with improving language through those ladder exercises as well, and creating structure, or excuse me, creating sentences and helping with it. All good stuff. I'm going to end with the video, but I want to remind you to see the children for their capabilities and not their disabilities. That is how I was started, how I started. I have a primary of an exercise background, and then slowly spent my time in special ed. But I always challenge them for their capabilities and not their disabilities. And that's why I've seen, I believe, still so much success with my kids. What makes the exercise connection different from a therapeutic type exercise model, or OT and PT. There's a lot of things that overlap, but I think we all have a lot to share with each other. I know typically when I'm not presenting at a webinar, I learn something from everyone through their questions or through their talking points, whether it's an OT, a PT, a speech therapist, or a parent. So these kids can do these things. And I'm going to share quickly a video with you. This is a 2-minute video. Then I've saved some room for questions, and I hope that you guys have some. And I'm going to give you all the contact information here in a second, but hold on one second while I pull up this next video. Okay, I think you guys can see my screen. So there's clips of the Coach Dave show on YouTube. There's only clips, but they're actually on Roku, and I'm going to cover that in a second and how you could see this. But here's a powerful video that I wanted to share with all of you.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I like Japanese comics and cartoons, animals, and also I like reading and writing. How I've gotten into this exercise company? Well, my mom met Dave at Autism One conference. Before Dave, I was usually stressed out at school, and usually I go into my room and dance, which increases my heart activity, but not much of my the rest of the body.
This letter is what?
C.
Perfect. Now, can you guys, let's start at the bottom right, both feet together, and we're going to jump the letter C. Ready? Go. Good. Back. Excellent. One more time. Good. Back. Excellent job. Now go ahead and write the letter C.
This could also be the letter U, if you look at the other way.
That's excellent. Good. So there's the letter C with Bill's non-dominant hand. But hold on, Rachel, just because that was an excellent idea, let's show them the letter U. Start on the top left. Oop. Yep. Yep. Excellent. Look at that. Go ahead, Rach. And there's your letter U.
Or C.
Or C. Excellent job.
When Dave came, I was unsure about my body, but when time gets by, I began to go more, and when I go more, my mind becomes more stronger with my body. So I'm glad that I'm here because this is a very good opportunity, and it's a good way to show girls, younger or older than me, that you can exercise and yet feel happy about it, and you don't have to go extreme. You just go whenever you want to, and that's really the great thing about being here. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go. We're going to get to questions here in a second. I just want to show you. Um, Here is the books and DVDs, and they're available at ecautism.com in the shop page. The visual system is as well. If you have more questions or you're with the school and you're not for profit, just let me know. This is Derek down here, and this is when we first started, and he's come a long way too in his building of the system. This is what a Roku is. Some of you don't know, but the Coach Dave Show is. It's free. All you need is a Roku. And there's actually a free channel called the Autism Channel. Again, it's called the Autism Channel. It's free on Roku. They have a ton of resources and shows. All you do is have to buy the Roku, which ranges, I believe, from about $50 to $60. It's not a monthly fee or anything like that. But that is how you can watch some of the shows and everything. Here's all my contact information. Make sure you go onto the website, ecautism.com, and go ahead and sign up on my email list as well, because we also post a lot of other presentations, or hopefully one day I'll be in Texas presenting down there. So anyways, I'm going to grab the questions, and just give me a couple minutes or a second, and I'll be right back. Okay, Nisi, are there questions? I don't see any in my inbox. Um, I'm kind of searching through here. If you guys can wait a couple minutes, I appreciate you guys hanging in there. But we're going to try to get this all figured out. I'm going to go back just so you guys can see some previous screens. There's Coach Dave. That's the visual system. And then there's the books and everything too. But hold on, I'm going to check my email again. Okay, I think you guys can all still hear me. I don't see any questions, but I'm looking through. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Ah, here we go. Okay, question one. What do you want them to? Okay, great. Here's one. When you start an exercise program, do you want them to be exhausted at the end of the session? Absolutely not. And here's a quick story. Mom called me up and they sent him to a neurotypical personal trainer, exhausted their, I think he was an adult, and never went back again. So no, a slow approach. Just think of yourself. While we think that's the right way to do it, or you see it on The Biggest Loser, it's not. It's not for our kids, and sometimes it's not for you as a parent. So no, you don't want them to be exhausted. Um, you may work to that for some kids, but I would not suggest it. Um, okay, there's a lot of sports questions. One in regards to son who's 9 years old, low muscle tone. I'm going to answer that in a couple ways. One in regards to sports in general. What I have found as the best structured sport to teach is baseball. Think about it. You hit the ball, you run to first base, and you stop. Then you wait for someone to hit ball, you run to second base and stop. I had great success teaching that when I was teaching at the school with Giant Steps with my youngest class, and these were like 5 to 8. So I'm telling you, I love baseball just from that purpose. You can put footprints out in the field. You can put stop signs by the bases. I really like that. By bringing this to your community, one thing I would say is I have trained, I think I had mentioned that, across the world. So if you have information or you want more, just contact me, and we can always talk about that. My daughter does not want to move. How do I get her to exercise? Again, hopefully I made that clear, but you may have to find a motivator towards the end. Don't use food. I forgot to say that. Don't use food as the motivator, but it's a slow approach. And I think whether it's mom or dad, you got to engage with them. So it's a slow approach. Don't think that's going to happen overnight or it's going to happen in one session. Okay, great question. What kind of sensory breaks do you think a child do in a classroom between subjects? Yes, using dumbbells could absolutely be a help. However, some schools don't like dumbbells. We're experiencing that now, which is totally understandable. But you can use bands. I think if you saw um, the foam roller, that is a huge type of sensory break and calm the body. So I would highly suggest a foam roller. It's relatively inexpensive. Um, you can do hip extensions. There's a number of exercises that they may like to do that can give them some sensory breaks. Not only sensory, but also functional and help improve their fitness. Um, I can't manipulate his body. Okay. Um, my son is 7. He can't imitate actions or follow commands. Can you provide some exercise that I can manipulate his body? I think a lot of exercises can be, manipulated or prompted. Um, I would, I mean, there's a multiple. I can't, I mean, I'm trying to think. Um, like even the Superman, like where he's kicking the leg. If you remember that one to the mom or son or dad or someone who asked this, even those Supermans, you can manipulate them to. And he's 7, so he's younger. So I think you can have better success. I mean, I've done it with my one client boy is Ben. He's 22 and he's like 300 pounds. So for me, it's even a little bit of a challenge. But um, I think also you do mention he can't imitate or follow commands. So again, my question would be then to you is, do you provide visual supports as a type of command, or as a resource, not just the verbal, but the visual? So I would also try that. Um, and yes, I understand there's some exercises are complicated. Um, they don't have to be, and if I made them seem complicated, that was not my intent. There's some like a basic hip extension where you're squeezing the butt up and bringing it down. Not only is it a little bit easier than, for example, the Superman, like I mentioned, but it has a huge benefit to improving, reducing lower back pain, which we all experience, unfortunately. Okay, actually, and not able to go higher than level 2 for about now. I feel that more than actually try to use punishment. Do you think? Okay, there's a question about gymnastics. I'm not an expert in gymnastics. I don't have visuals for gymnastics yet, but he says he struggles a lot with coordination and balancing. He's not been able to go higher than level 2 for about 6 months. I don't know what that means. What level 2 means. I feel like this might hurt than actually trying to help his. Do you have a thing? Gymnastics is typical, I guess, in what a lot of parents try, and not to say that it's not beneficial. It's absolutely beneficial. The more they're moving their body, it works. Um, I guess it's very tough for me to answer that question because I can't see it or know, but he may benefit from like dumbbells and things that can help give him sensory feedback and help improve coordination. If you remember in that video where I showed Rowan where he was pressing the dumbbells up, those were 1 pound dumbbells, and he did amazing. Or his tone improved. That question came up. His tone improved, um, and also his coordination improved of working both sides of the body together simultaneously. So I would absolutely recommend maybe with your son who's 9, maybe trying some dumbbell type stuff. Or more than the others. What do you use? How do these areas help to support development? Okay, I tend to hear about balance and coordination more than other components. True. Do kids with ASD tend to be clumsy? Yes, that is a good word for it. How do these other areas help us support the development of better? Okay, that kind of answers my question with the dumbbells. Um, the dumbbells, again, I may never, or we may never, as professionals, understand exactly the sensory feedback that, for example, the dumbbell may provide. However, like in that Rowan video, he wasn't as fluid in that 1 pound dumbbell press when he first started. His body was everywhere. But I'm telling you, over time, his balance and his coordination, not just balance of the literal balance of standing on one leg, but the balance meaning the right leg or the right arm could do the same thing as the left and vice versa. That improved with dumbbells. Okay, so here's a good question, and then I think this is going to be the last one, okay? Again, questions, let me know. Thank you guys for attending. My daughter is currently doing 15 minutes of yoga every 3 days and dance once a week, but I'm still not sure that she is physically fit and getting enough exercise. How do I know that she is getting enough? Okay, one, any child starting with an exercise program will see benefit, whether it's 15 minutes or 5 minutes. However, all of our bodies adapt to exercise, meaning when, let's say your daughter first started, she may have only, or not may only, let's just, for example, say she burnt 50 calories in 15 minutes, which is great. However, as her body became more adapted to the structure, the routine, and those yoga poses, if they remain consistent, the body adapts, which then, again, this is an example. Let's say she went from week 1, 15 minutes, she burnt 50 calories each session, but by week 8, maybe she's only burning 30. Okay, the body adapts. It's smart. It can figure it out. So she may, while it's still beneficial, if, for example, maybe you're trying to help her lose weight, I don't know what you mean by the exam or the what your definition of is physically fit. She may need to increase her time, change her positions in the yoga positions, or add something more. So that's very important for all, whether you're a parent or professional, to know. I hope that made sense. I appreciate everyone's time. Oh, wait, there's another question. Sorry. Does your book and DVD cover the same material, or are they complementary? In other words, can I? You can get there are some overlapping exercises in the DVD and the book. However, obviously the DVD you see, you're actually able to see some of it. In total, I think combined, if you were to buy the package, you get about 75 exercises. They are not designed to be used together, but I would encourage you to use both. The DVD comes with a small visual exercise schedule, which has 16 visuals. And the book has visuals, which I know are going to be used in some way, meaning if you copied them, you can use them that way. In the first book, they're a little bit smaller. In the second book, they're different exercises, and they have and they're larger. They're larger as well. So yes, in both you have visual supports in some way coming with the book or the DVD. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I look forward to hopefully presenting here again one day. And again, if you have questions, email me. And thank you everyone for your time. Have a great day and a great Thanksgiving and holiday. Bye.